Coming up on Mountain News at 6, with overdose deaths increasing in Kentucky, a legislative commission is hearing the reasons why so many turn to drugs. And the Red Cross partners with one Southern Kentucky fire department to hand out free smoke detectors to folks in the area.
And we are giving you the first alert for a big cool down by Halloween. Those details coming up as Mountain News at 6 starts now.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 6.
The reasons behind so many overdoses in Kentucky were discussed today in a committee meeting in Frankfort. The Commission on Race and Access to Opportunity met today at the state capitol. The group heard from several groups who outlined what they believe are the reasons people turn to drugs. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more.
Part of today's discussion centered around the opioid settlement money coming into Kentucky from drug companies, and then discussion turned to reasons behind drug overdoses. Everything from a lack of housing to transportation to various other things being to blame for what's behind many of the drug overdoses in Kentucky.
That year marked the very first time that the rate of opioid-related deaths among black Kentuckians exceeded that of whites.
Brian Hubbard chairs the Opioid Abatement Advisory Commission and says they started noticing a change in 2021 in drugs impacting more urban areas than rural. He says the tidal wave of destruction is from fentanyl. Several groups say the focus needs to be on what they call harm reduction and providing more housing and transportation and giving simply hope to people at the end of their rope.
So we want the communities and we want you to support policy and legislation that puts housing first, that gives people an option.
Lawmakers were also told today that if people have access to what they need, they may not turn to other things that will ultimately harm them. Basically stating that it is their belief that a lot of crime happens not because people want to engage in illegal activities, simply because they don't have any other options. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
The commission is hearing information as they prepare for the General Assembly session, which will begin January 2nd. We now know the name of the man found dead in Lake Cumberland last week. The Pulaski County Deputy Coroner tells us the body found was identified as 28-year-old Robert E. Lee of Somerset. The cause of death has not been released. The deputy coroner also says Lee's body was taken to the state medical examiner's office in Frankfort for an autopsy.
Nice weather continues across the mountains into this evening. Here's a live look from the London Corbin Airport, and we are dry. A little bit more cloudy though in the Cumberland Valley, but most of us right now looking at a mainly clear sky, up to 74 degrees at the airport, and most of us across the region in the middle to upper 70s, up to 77 for Manchester, also Hazard, 72 for Pikeville, down to 68 in Wise, and 75 over in Jonesville at this hour. So once again, we are well above average on your Tuesday, and more above average also some dry weather is on the way for most of this week. Up on the radar this evening, a clean sweep does continue, all thanks to high pressure, and we stay dry as we go into tonight. Those lows are once again chilly as you wake up on Wednesday, back in the middle to upper 40s and a few lower 50s as well, and more warm weather also on the way by Wednesday. We stay dry, also mainly sunny, and those temperatures back in the 70s on Wednesday, possibly some 80s though by Friday, also into the weekend, before some cooler air by next week. Those details coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Cameron, thank you. FEMA has approved more than $11 million for the Kentucky Division of Emergency Management for debris removal from last summer's flooding and mudslides. FEMA says following last year's event, removing debris became a critical mission to help address the immediate threat to the general public's health and safety. Here's what Kentucky EM Director Jeremy Slinker had to say in a statement, quote, "Every disaster is unique and brings its own set of hurdles to overcome, particularly with debris. The challenges we faced in this response was unlike any we had ever faced before. I am proud and thankful for the many partners that had a hand in helping Eastern Kentucky." We have more about this on our website at WYMT.com. Our nation has multiple holidays and celebrations to honor those who have served, but what about when they return home? WYMT's Madison Carmouche has more on what One Governor's Challenge initiative is doing to support veterans when they get home.
One suicide is too much, and this is a great start in really fighting the problem.
The Service Members, Veterans, and Their Families, or SMVF Task Force, is hosting Governor's Challenge summits like the Suicide Awareness and Lethal Means Safety Summit to bring awareness to a greater issue, veterans' mental health.
Any life loss is serious, and if we can have a real discussion to help save life, who wouldn't want to be a part of that conversation? And I believe the Commonwealth is full of people who want to put all differences aside. Let's have this conversation.
Veterans Affairs reported that in 2019, more than 69% of veteran suicides involved lethal means or a firearm.
Some of the things they're going to talk about is creating ways, if you're struggling, create distance. There are people who can turn in their, if they want to, they can willfully, turn in their weapons in a safe place, but people don't like to talk about it.
The Governor's Challenge is an initiative through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration that helps states fight against veteran suicides.
The Governor's Challenge has been a part of the Governor's overall initiative for the last 4 years. It has grown from a small group of individuals now to a coalition of veteran organizations, state agencies, community partners across the state.
Professionals and organizations that work with veterans were able to share things they found helpful in supporting those having suicidal thoughts.
Well, we are definitely planning to take as much knowledge as possible back to our program to see what programs we can implement, what resources we can bring to our service members to really bolster our efforts in the primary prevention of suicide.
Officials say that if you are a veteran or know one that is struggling, to dial the 988 crisis line. In Paintsville, Madison Carmouche, WYMT Mountain News.
For a list of resources offered by the Office of Kentucky Veteran Services, just find this story on our website. A popular election denier is encouraging his supporters to sneak a Wi-Fi monitoring device into Kentucky polling places. Mike Lindell believes Wi-Fi monitoring devices can help detect and uncover election fraud. Secretary of State Michael Adams disagrees. The Kenton County Board of Elections has already voted to disallow the detectors at polling locations. State statute says it is illegal to disrupt the election process or intimidate voters. Speaking of the election, tonight our sister station WKYT will host the Kentucky Debate. Make sure you tune in right here on WYMT at 7 o'clock this evening. Governor Andy Beshear and Republican challenger Attorney General Daniel Cameron are both expected to participate. Bill Bryant will moderate the 1-hour debate as he asks the candidates about the issues you care most about. Again, that's less than an hour away now here on WYMT, the last scheduled debate between the two candidates for governor, with the election 2 weeks from today. The London Fire Department and the American Red Cross are partnered up in providing community members with smoke alarms. The partners are involved in the Home Fire campaign, which focuses on providing houses with free smoke alarms. Disaster Program Manager of the American Red Cross Bluegrass Area Chapter, Dawn Marie Beals, says the campaign has saved many lives across the nation, as well as many here in Kentucky.
We've had 85 lives saved in Kentucky alone, in southern Indiana, from this program. We partner with fire departments like we have here, and we go out into high-need areas and make sure they have smoke alarms.
Beal says on a normal home fire campaign event known as Sound the Alarm, they get roughly 10% of the homes they knock on to let them install smoke alarms. But yesterday it was more than 20%. We'll have more about the partnership with the London Fire Department and the Home Fire campaign tonight at 11.
Well, we are dry into this evening, but those rain chances are not too far away. Those details coming up. Plus,
2 Middlesboro high school students are in a program with a prestigious university.